fame, I want um success, I wanted, yeah, I wanted to feel really good about myself, and I wanted to feel good about my life. And I was, I've been in a relationship for a very long time with somebody who some of you might know, called Shane McGowan, who's a singer. And he has been successful since he was a kid. He's like been famous since he was about 18. So he's always had this thing of people just want what he's got. They want to buy it. They want to see him. They want to pay for it. They want to be around him. Like if Shane thinks of a famous person, like if he thinks, oh, I'd like to meet Robert De Niro, the chances are Robert De Niro wants to meet him. I mean, that's a real buzz, when you're going around thinking, hey, all the people in the world I want to meet, they all want to meet me. and and being in that relationship, for me, I've always felt very inadequate, because I was like, oh fuck, like they're not really interested in me, they're only interested in him, and I'm just the girlfriend or the partner, so I'm just carrying the bags. So I felt very much pushed into trying to find some way that I could be like really successful and really important. I think important is the word.
Right. That's a phrase it like that. That's quite
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
because we're
Yeah.
living in this world where like there's VIPs and celebrities, and then there's civilians. And like if you're not a VIP or a celebrity, it means you don't get the velvet rope, you don't get the red carpet, you don't get upgraded, and you don't get like first into stuff. And so I think we're all living in this world where we're kind of feeling a bit put down all the time. It's like we're kind of downgraded all the time. And there's this massive hierarchy, and it seems to be getting more intense, that hierarchy of like there's the haves and then there's the rest. so so that was my real reason for getting into it, was I wanted to find out how to have this power, how to create stuff, how to manifest things. Like I bought all those books, um, You Can Have It All, like the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, Deepak Chopra,
Yeah.
all the Abraham Hicks stuff, like all the stuff about you can manifest the shit out of everything you want. So I was like, this is good. I want this. I want this. And I found that I would go to tarot readers and they would tell me, oh yeah, you're going to have a really amazing future. You're going to be like really successful. And I was like, yeah, but when? Like, when's it going to happen? And how's it going to happen? And what do I have to do? So it was very frustrating, until one day I found a woman she was ostensibly like fortune telling, but actually what she was doing was channeling angels. And I went to her house and I sat with her, and she was a really ordinary kind of like she looked like just like a suburban housewife in like Cambridge in England. And she just sat me down in her sitting room, and she said, okay, I'm now going to tune into my guide, and that guide, Ortan, is going to speak to you. So I just sat there, and then all of a sudden she got bigger, and she became like this being of love, and this being of love like kind of just like washed over me. And it was like if everybody you've ever fancied suddenly fancied you.
Oh, that sounds.
Imagine that feeling, that you're just being like, everybody suddenly loves you, and you're just absolutely loved, and you're like, you're cherished, you're adored. That feeling, you're the VIP, right? And so so once I got that feeling, and the guide was speaking to me, it wasn't really so much about what the guide was saying, but it was really about the feeling, the vibe, the energy that was coming from it, this being. So she was teaching people how to do it, and I was like, I need to learn this, like sign me up. And it took about a year for her to accept me, and I couldn't understand why. She was like, no, you're not ready, you're not ready. And I was getting, again, like very frustrated. But she said that it was very important for me to learn to meditate before I could do this. And she explained that the reason why that's such a crucial step is that you've got to get all the other stuff out of the way to open up to this. So like we're living in this world where we're constantly like worried about stuff. We're trying to make stuff happen. We have, like we were talking before we came on about, I've got to do this. I've got to get the kids to school. I've got to get my video up on YouTube, or I've got to get my video back out of YouTube, or whatever it is, or I've got to get my event on. I got to get the numbers. I got to get like the money. I got to get the mortgage, whatever it is. So it's very much like this feeling of intense, like panic almost, that we're living in as a society, as people, you know, because we've got to get all these things from outside us all the time. And when you meditate, I guess what you do is you just make a bit of space within that. You know, you don't necessarily, it doesn't go away, but you just drop in to your real self, and you ground, and there's this like space that opens up. And in that space, you can hear or feel these energies. So I did that for about a year, and then she let me do it. and I found that one of her techniques was getting people to drop everything else and then go into the heart and just focus on love, and see if you can do it for like a couple of minutes, and then maybe 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, and then 20 minutes, until you can spend more time in love than in panic or whatever else is going on. So it's really like channeling isn't really about messages. I know that people always think, oh, well, it's channeled messages and it's all very academic and it's all about like dimensions and, you know, stuff. But really, for me, channeling's always been about love. It's always been about that feeling of pure, unadulterated, unconditional love that just fills you up and makes you feel completely whole and completely safe and big and powerful and purposeful and wise and creative. I think it inspires like this feeling of creativity where you can suddenly access like ideas, or you can access that you become magnetic to things, and you don't feel that you have got to get them. You feel that they are actually part of you. So it's like, I am now money, I am now abundance, I am now all these things that I love, but they're part of me because I am love. So if I am love and I love stuff, then naturally that stuff is me, right? That makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
Totally. And it's love. I love what you're saying, because it's just, yeah, it's in the stillness.
It's in the stillness.
That's where, I mean, even when you say that word, right, you kind of drop. I feel myself dropping as you were explaining.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was changing on the video right now. You know, it's just
Yeah.
changing. You know,
Yeah.
this kind of, yeah, it's like I feel the awareness that if we can live from that place, the rest, I won't say it falls away, but if all we are really is the awareness, kind of watching the outside movie.
Yes.
You said as well about, you know, wanting that, you know, looking outside of yourself for that gratification. And it, in a way, sometimes we talk in cliches, but essentially it's the inner world that counts. And people, when I say that to people, they say, that sounds a bit boring though. I mean, what do you want me to do? Like, just,
I
but
know. I
the thing
know.
is, it's not boring, because it's going to give you the outer world, you know, whatever you want in the outer world.
Yeah.
If you clean that up, if you can somehow find that connection to just feel good on the inside, it's going to
Yeah.
reflect.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And what happened to me was that as I did that more and more, so as I maybe made that my focus, and I mean, I guess I focused on that for like 25 years. Okay. So I've been focusing on that, and what I noticed started happening was that the people who I was like looking up to, that were hanging around Shane, they began to be interested in me, and they would come and talk to me about what I'm doing, and they'd be like, hey, you know, I love what you're doing. And you know, I would even hear them say to me, you know, I love you. I mean, this was like incredible. Like for me, it was just like, wow, we're really like, it's because it was actually just the energy. And
Yeah.
we're all like, at that level, we are all connected and we feel it. You know, we feel this connection and we all want to feel this, and it's beautiful. And then stuff started magically happening, you know, like I started getting offered things like deals like for films, and I ended up like a couple of years ago, I ended up walking down the red carpet with Johnny Depp, wearing a beautiful gold Bellafroid gown that she'd given me for free, and having people take my picture and want to interview me and stop me in the street and go, wow, we love you, we love your angels. I'm like, this is fucking insane. Like, how the fuck did this happen? But I think it happened because I was just tuning into love instead of tuning into I need, I want, I've got to get. So I just was like, no, I'm just going to be this energy. And then the stuff just flops in. And it's a bit, I mean, the Abraham Hicks stuff is so true. You know, what she says, like, you drop into your vortex, and in your vortex is all the stuff you love. So you don't really have to do all the other stuff. I mean, you will be inspired. And I think that's probably a crucial thing as well, that people think, oh, well, I can't just sit and meditate for the rest of my life. I can't just sit there and be in the vortex because I've got to get the kids to school, or I've got, you know, we've got stuff to do, right? But when we are in that state, it all flows and we get inspired to take the action that's actually going to be the most effective or the most productive, or it's like what she calls, I think, the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And that just starts happening. You know, like you might have, you know, an explosion in your boiler. And if you just go into that state, the right plumber will just be available and you will find that plumber so fast. You know, that's happened to me so many times that, like, I was in the car the other day, I was driving along and the car just stopped working, literally stopped moving at a petrol station. And I was sitting in the car going, okay, so I have a choice here. Like, I can totally freak out, or I could just like ask to get to kind of drop into that energy. And as I dropped into the energy, this man came up to me and said, yeah, do you want me to take a look at your car? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, and he said, yeah, no problem. Just open the bonnet. And he like opened the bonnet and he like fiddled around and he said, yeah, I just need to put some water in the radiator. Of course, I hadn't actually put any water in. So he put some water in and then he went, yeah, I'm an aircraft engineer. I just happened to be passing and I saw you and I just thought I'd come over and ask you. I was like, fuck, okay. You know, magic starts happening. Real magic. It is incredible. It really is. I mean, it's just so, and I would love for more people to be aware of it, because I think it's something that people dismiss because they think they've got too much else to do. You know, like I'm busy. I've got way more. I don't have time for that. That's too airy fairy, or that's too new agey, or it's like nonsense, or it's not practical, not grounded, you know.
I think it is changing though. More and more people seem to be stepping into that place, you know. It's interesting, you know. It's definitely changing. But I wanted to ask you about all the figures you have behind you there, and all the beautiful colors. Who do you feel like, when you say the angels, that's who you mainly communicate with? Is that a higher aspect of you? I mean, I know we're all kind of connected, but do you feel you're actually kind of connecting to the angelic realm when you do your work?
So that's another brilliant question, because in some ways, I feel like there's aspects of me that come through, and I think that does happen. And when I pushed them a bit, I was like, come on, like, tell me who you are. Like, tell me what the fuck, you know, who are you? And they were like, you know, like, you know, when we give you advice and when we give you like transmissions or stuff, is it helpful? And I said, of course, it you know, it's totally changed my life. And they said, well, in that case, like, does it really matter who we are? And I said, I suppose not. And eventually they began giving me names. So I would get a painting. So the painting would just come. I would get a pen and I'd start moving the pen and I would have no idea what was going to happen. Absolutely no clue. And then within maybe like an hour or so, this being is emerging. And then it's usually a she. I find they usually take female form. And maybe that's because I'm a woman, I don't know. But they began to give me their names, which was very exciting. So for the first time, I began to get all these names, and all their names end in Treya. So I got this like Gala Treya, Hassa Treya, Antran Treya, Sarah Treya. So they're all got these Treya names. I was like, what's this about? And they said, well, you know, we're a collective, and we're light beings, and you can call us angels or you can call us light beings. You can basically call us whatever you want. We're just like beings like you, but we obviously inhabit other dimensions. And the most excitement and joy that they get is from allowing, or I suppose assisting, or it's like loving, really. So they're loving us and they're finding ways to get through with their love, and whether ways to inspire us, ways to uplift us, and ways to remind us of ourselves, because it's not like they're teaching us anything. They're actually just reminding us of stuff that we already know, but we've chosen to forget, or we've decided to forget a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's really like a remembering, in the sense that they're kind of like holding space for us to put ourselves back together. So ultimately, we don't need them, but they love us, and they just want to share energy with us, and they just want to um, facilitate us in coming back to ourselves and opening up to the stuff that's in there. And like, when other people that I work with, when they begin to channel, so I've been teaching people to channel, when they do it, they quite often find that they channel images as well as information. So they'll be channeling their own like beings, and these beings become part of their team. So it's like, I suppose, like in the human world, we tend to think of ourselves very much as individuals, and we don't really think of ourselves as teams. But it's becoming more that we're expanding into becoming more cooperative and collaborative. But really, you are already in a team. Like, you've got a family, you got a soul family, you got a tribe. So you're a team already.
Yeah.
And these are just teams that are like on our team, but they're not always visible.
Yeah.
And they're just part of us. Like, they're part of our, yeah, because we're not actually individuals at all. We think we are, but we're not. That makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then you make it in the physical. Yeah, we're members of a family, and that
Yeah.
gives you a sense. Yeah, that's very simple ways.
Yeah.
So next week, Victoria, our plan is we start at 7:30, and for the first hour, I'm gonna have a chat with you. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
little interview style setup, and then in the second half, we'll probably do a combination of some channeling from
Yeah.
your, and then like a Q&A maybe with the audience. That probably
Yeah.
sounds like a good run. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. And they've got a couple of surprises. So they would love to make this experience very experiential. So they're not so into lecturing anyone. They're really into facilitating people actually feeling stuff. So there's going to be some stuff that we'll be doing, which might be a little bit surprising. It might not, but I don't want to tell you, and I don't be like spoil it or anything. But there's going to be some stuff that will help us to clear away. So a lot of us are working with limiting ideas, limiting beliefs about ourselves and about our and about the world that we live in. So like, a lot of us maybe worry about the environment, we worry about the economy, we worry about like house prices or not being able to get housing, we worry about money, we worry about health, we worry about like all these things. So there's a huge amount of this energy in our field and in our society and in our collective consciousness. And so they're very interested in helping us to be empowered to clear that. So we're going to be doing a bit of clearing, and it won't be like, you're not going to be sitting there bawling your eyes out, don't worry, or vomiting. It's not like that. So it's a very joyful way of clearing and upgrading the energy around these issues, but we'll bring our own issues. So like, you can bring your issues, I'll bring mine, we'll all bring our own, and we'll just like upgrade some of these issues. And you'll know, like, when you walk away from this event, you will have these tools that you can use every day as these issues come up, because they're going to keep coming up, because we're still human, right? We're not going anywhere yet. So that's one part. And then another part which they feel very excited about is again, facilitating the people who come to be able to draw in some of the really cool stuff that they'd love to draw in. So it's like, let's clear and upgrade some of the stuff we don't want, and let's let's all just get, bring in some stuff for ourselves to enjoy, because it's all about enjoyment. It's all about,
Do the work on the spot. Yeah, let's do a bit of, and
yeah,
it's yeah, we're playing in the ether, I suppose. But like,
yeah,
well, let's get in and do some. Yeah, brilliant.
do some stuff. And we're powerful people, we really are very powerful, much more than we think, like way more than we think.
You know what I would say to people? I would say bring something, that you want to manifest in your life. Have a good think about it. It can be something simple, it can be something big, and let's all work on it together in
Yeah,
the second half
yeah.
with the angels, with the, yeah, let's do that.
Let's do it. And maybe think about, like, it can be big. We can work on,
Yeah.
like, some of our visions for the society that we live in. We could work on maybe everybody being able to buy a beautiful house, or everybody being able to have access to good, nutrition and organic food and sunlight and water. And, like, let's make it big. Why make it small? And
Make
and let's just make it
let's
big.
let's go the whole way. And if anybody out there wants to just walk up a red carpet with Johnny Depp, let's do work on that,
Exactly.
right?
Yes. Let's do it.
Because it's all, in a way, sometimes I think we've been conditioned to believe, oh, that's not so cool. You want to be real spiritual. It's just whatever
Yeah.
you fancy, go for it. You know what I mean? Just
And have
don't, seriously, just don't, your inner world is where you want to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can have fun with it. I think that's one of the most important messages, is that it doesn't have to be so serious. It doesn't have to be so heavy. It can be a lot of fun. And one of the other pieces that's been coming to me, so I was always curious about why I've spent my whole life around musicians, ever since I was a kid, like even before I met Shane when I was 16.
Mm.
But even before I met him, I was already meeting and hanging out with musicians and bands. And I was like, why am I not in a band? Like, what's this about? Why am I hanging around bands, but I'm not in a band? And why am I always really drawn to musicians? And I feel this intense connection with them, and I've worked with some really famous musicians with my channeling, I've channeled for them, but I've never actually been in a band. So they've started prompting me recently to learn the guitar, get singing lessons, start playing some instruments. And they're saying that in the future, all these celebrities that we look up to, like we look up, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but like there's people like Taylor Swift that come, or there's people like Bruce Springsteen that come, or, these like big energy musicians like you too, they're big energy. They're making this like huge impact in the world, but it's not very deliberately healing. So it is accidentally healing. I'm not saying it isn't, but we have the capacity to have in our society people who are like more shamanic, people who are making music that's with a clear intention to heal and to uplift and to clear stuff. So we're moving more towards that. So like, I guess in the old days, you would have in your tribe, there would be people who played music, like played drums or did ceremonies, or there was a lot of ritual around music, like dancing. Music was very much done as a healing thing, and it was done to break up energy and to clear the demons and to bring in the harvest or bring in the abundance. Or so we used music and dancing and drumming and stuff in a very ceremonial and ritualistic way. Even in Ireland, like there was
Yeah.
always, in the pagan times, there was like, music and dancing was sacred. But we've kind of changed that, and we've made it into entertainment and some kind of like, it's very separate from us. And it's like we just sit there and we kind of like watch it, but we're not in it. That there's something about that. And so they are saying this in the future, we are going to be embodying way more of this stuff. We'll all be doing it. We'll all be musicians and dancers as well.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to next week already. So this is pretty cool. Anybody who wants to come, it's in the Vico in the Queen's Bar in Dalkey upstairs, 7:30. I'll put, as I said, the link below. Victoria, if people want to find out more about you, like tell us what you do. Do you do one-on-one sessions with people? And what
Yeah.
else do you do? And where
So
can
I do, at the moment, I'm doing a couple of one-on-one sessions, not very many, mainly group work. So I'm doing a Zoom course, which is called Upgrading Your Thoughts. And that's all about the stuff we were just talking about, where it's like clearing and upgrading those limiting beliefs that we have, and then accessing the stuff that we actually want, and the stuff that makes us happy, and the stuff that lights us up. And yeah, I mean, apart from that, I do teach people to channel, and I do scarves, and I do paintings and jewelry and all the stuff, like, which, like, for me, it's really like raise my vibration. And when I look at it, like if I just meditate with one of these angels, I feel like I'm absorbing their frequency. So I think they're a vibrational healing tool. They just like bring frequency without necessarily having to go through your mind, so that they're just like bypassing your mind, and they're just going straight into the heart.
And is it VictoriaMaryClarke.com?
It's VictoriaMaryClarkeAngels.com.
VictoriaMaryClarkeAngels.com.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Can you show us one of your scarves, Victoria, while you're here?
Oh yeah, sure. Let me, I'll show you for a laugh. So I made a shower curtain, but it's very big.
Oh wow.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
So that's the violet flame angel, Violetrea.
Okay.
So I made her for the shower because I think that, in the shower is where we're cleaning our body. But I think when you're in the shower, you want to clean your energy at the same time. So use the violet flame in the shower.
Good move. Brilliant. Yeah, it's so colorful, isn't it? I love the one there in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
the picture.
She's the angel of justice.
Oh, see the red one up above, the top, on the left?
Oh, yeah, but she's the body.
Okay.
She's the angel of the body, the physical body.
Well,
so I think whatever one you're drawn to is probably what you need, the vibration that you need.
We'll get to meet them all next week. And if people have questions, and as I said, I like the idea that we can just get in and work on stuff. Before we go, is there anything you want to say to people, or the angels want to say to people, I suppose, about what's going on in the world right now? Or like, let's forget about what's going on in the world. What's going on with us right now?
Actually, a piece that they wanted to share about what's going on in the world is that, so a lot of people feel that this ascension process is very intense, and it's speeding things up, and it's bringing up a lot of stuff. It's bringing up a lot of our triggers and our fears, and mainly our fears and insecurities. But what they were saying this morning was that, when you learn to swim, and at first you're in the shallow end, and you're swimming in the shallow end, and maybe you've got those armbands on and, a flotation device. And then when you get good at swimming, you want to go in the deep end. So you take off the flotation devices and you go in the deep end, and you start feeling, hey, I'm really good in the deep end now. And then maybe you decide you want to go scuba diving. So you want to dive down into the ocean, and you put on the equipment and you go scuba diving. So they're basically saying that we are becoming more powerful at the same time that all this stuff is coming up. So we maybe sometimes forget that as this comes up, it means that we have more power to work with it, more power to transform it, and more power to transmute what's happening. So we're not becoming weaker, we're becoming more powerful, and we tend to forget that. So we have access to more light right now than we've ever had as a species. But that sort of gets forgotten, in these like, oh my God, I've been so triggered. But it's actually, no, you're just getting stronger. There's more of you now to work with. Does that make sense?
It really does. And it's a really good tip, because it's when you're in that space where you think you're overwhelmed or you just can't handle it, know that on the equal side, you're getting more
powerful. You're accessing more power.
Sometimes I visualize it's almost like we're being upgraded, like a superhero kind of vibe, like a super human, a brilliant expression of a combination of the divine and the human. Yeah, it's like open to that side of it, yeah?
Well, that is exactly what's happening, isn't it? I mean, we know people who are doing incredible things. Like you and I have a mutual friend who's like, we won't talk about that, but like what she's doing is it's superhuman stuff, isn't it? So,
I meet people all the time, and these people are like, it's like they're having enlightening experiences, and I'm like, do you, and they still say, I'm human, I'm not like above everything,
no.
But I found a way that I can really navigate what's going on. And again, they say they're kind of sitting in their hearts and they're living from there. And that love you spoke about earlier, we described it as people who ever fancied you, which is a brilliant way of describing it. Like if you're walking around feeling that all the time, you know, things are not really going to phase you, right?
Well, you see, what we have to do is we have to learn to fancy ourselves
Yes.
in a good way. Like we have to learn to to plant in the good thoughts like all the time. You know, you're doing great. You're doing amazing. Like you're fantastic. You've done this so well. I love this about you. You know, you're so brilliant. But we're more inclined to say that to other people. Like we're more inclined to say that to someone we're in love with, or maybe our kids or our family. We're not so inclined to turn it inwards. And that's part of the trick, is that when you start turning that inwards, you start feeding yourself. You start like really nurturing your energy and feeling much, much, much stronger. Like you turn on a tap.
You get turned on. Yeah. So when you go to bed at night, look in the mirror and say, look who I'm going to bed with tonight. Look at this.
Yeah.
Yourself. So in Victoria, fancy all of you. And we're delighted if you come down next week and we'll fancy you again in person.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So great, Victoria. Thanks for the chat today. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Just if you like the chat and you think people out there might be keen on seeing this, please share it on to whomever. It'll be up on Instagram as well. And it's a great, one thing I will say as well, we're gonna do what we do, but it's the people that gather as well, and the chat,
Yeah,
the vibe in the room. It's just lovely. That's why I do these events, because that's the biggest kick for me in a sense, you know. It's even if it's you, whoever it is, it's the gathering, you know, that
gathering. Yeah, that's really powerful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, Victoria, great to have you here, and we'll see you next week. Yeah, and everybody else. Bye-bye. Yes, there you go. So that's off Facebook now. So it's just me and you, and I'll stop the recording. Okay.